Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome back to my channel where we tell stories from the Bible. In today's video, we rag on Nabi looking at the moment when Adam's eyes opened up right after he ate the apple that Eve had given to him. You don't want to miss this one. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel so you never miss any updates. And if you know someone who might enjoy this video, feel free to share it with them. Alright, let's dive into the story. In the beginning, God created the world. He made the heavens and the earth, everything that can be seen and everything that cannot be seen. In 6 days, God made all of the animals and placed them on the earth. And then on the 6th day, God made man. This man was placed in a special garden called Eden. Within this garden, there was one tree that held incredible power, the tree of life. And God told the man that he could eat from any tree in the garden except for this one. One day, there came a moment when a serpent, which is often referred to as the devil, approached Eve, who was the wife of Adam. And the serpent asked her, "Why aren't you allowed to eat from the tree in the middle of the garden?" She responded by saying, "God has commanded that we do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil." But the serpent tempted Eve further by saying, "You will not certainly die. For God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Eve looked at the fruit of the tree, and it looked really good. She could see its beauty, its color, its taste. And she began to think about how good it would be to eat it. As she continued to look at the fruit, Eve reached out and grabbed it and ate it. After eating the fruit, she realized that it tasted even better than it looked. The serpent then said to Eve, "Well, now that you've eaten from the tree, you should share the fruit with your husband, Adam." So Eve took some of the fruit and went to find Adam. When she found him, she said, "Here, you should eat this fruit, my husband. It looks good and tastes even better than it looks." Adam didn't question Eve. He trusted her and loved her very much. So he took the fruit from Eve and ate it. Immediately after eating it, his eyes opened up. Do you know what that meant? It meant that Adam was no longer innocent. He was now aware of his own nakedness. Let's take a step back here and ask ourselves, why did Adam's eyes open up when he ate the fruit? Well, it's important to understand the symbolism behind the opening of Adam's eyes. When Adam and Eve were living in the Garden of Eden, they were in a state of innocence. They didn't know anything about sin or shame. They were completely unaware of their own nakedness. However, once they ate the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, their eyes were opened and they became aware of their own nakedness. This symbolizes the loss of their innocence and the entry into a state of sin and shame. Before they ate the fruit, they were like children, innocent and without knowledge of good and evil. But after eating the fruit, they became like adults, aware of their own sin and the consequences of their actions. Another way to think about the opening of Adam's eyes is that it represents a kind of spiritual awakening. Before they ate the fruit, they were in a state of ignorance, but afterwards, they were filled with knowledge. They knew right from wrong, good from evil. This knowledge, however, brought with it a great deal of pain and suffering. In addition to the pain and suffering that came with the knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve also experienced shame. They felt awkward and uncomfortable with their naked bodies, and they tried to cover themselves with fig leaves. This is the first recorded instance of clothing in human history. Adam and Eve were trying to hide their nakedness because they were ashamed of it. They realized that they were no longer innocent and pure, and they were afraid of what God might do to them. Do you remember the first time you ever felt shame? What did you do? How old were you? Let me know down in the comments section below. Now, when Adam and Eve were in the garden, they used to walk around freely and talk to God. But now that they had sinned and were filled with shame, they were afraid to go near God. One day, God came walking in the garden. Normally, Adam and Eve would have been happy to see him, but this time they were afraid. They were afraid of God's reaction to their sin. So Adam and Eve did something they had never done before. They hid. Adam hid behind a tree, and Eve hid among the bushes. When God saw that they had disobeyed him, he became very angry. But even though God was angry, he still wanted to talk to Adam and Eve. So he called out to them and asked them why they had hidden from him. Adam responded by saying that he had heard God coming and that's why he had hid. God then asked Eve why she had listened to the serpent instead of listening to him. Eve blamed the serpent for tempting her to eat the fruit, saying that if it weren't for him, she wouldn't have done it. The serpent had tricked her by telling her that the fruit would make her like God, knowing good from evil. Once God realized that the serpent had deceived Eve, he cursed him and said that he would be cursed more than all livestock and wild animals. And the Lord said to the serpent, "On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Now, God turned his attention back to Eve, and this is what he said to her: "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." Then to Adam, God said, "Because you listened to your wife and ate from the fruit I commanded you not to eat, the ground is cursed. Cursed is the soil because of your sin. Thorns and thistles it will produce for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return." Adam and Eve had broken God's law and disobeyed him. Because of their disobedience, they were cursed. Now, before they had been in a state of innocence, but now their eyes were open and they knew good from evil. Before they had walked freely in the garden, but now they had to work hard for their food. Before they had been close to God, but now they had hidden from him. Because of their disobedience, they were no longer welcome in the garden. God drove them out of Eden so that they would not eat from the tree of life and live forever in their sinful state. What lessons can we learn from this passage? Well, first, we see that sin brings pain and suffering. Before Adam and Eve sinned, they lived in a state of innocence and peace. But after they sinned, their lives were filled with pain, suffering, and hardship. Second, we learn that sin causes shame. Adam and Eve tried to cover their nakedness with fig leaves because they were ashamed of it. They realized that they were sinners, and they were afraid of what others might think of them. Third, we see that sin breaks relationships. Adam and Eve's relationship with God was broken because of their sin. They used to walk freely in the garden and talk to God, but now they were afraid to go near him. If you want to hear more stories from the Bible, stay tuned for more videos. We'll see you next time. Peace.